welcome to Climate Action Week Sydney 2025. And this is the first day of Climate Action Week in Sydney. There's a huge agenda and there's plenty of events running throughout the entire week. If you don't get enough apartment electrification tonight with this fireside chat with Mike Whitby, and you're in the Parramatta area, you can come to Parramatta Library tomorrow evening for another in-person event that will have a panel talking about apartment building electrification. So today, this is a session that I'm really been looking forward to bringing to Climate Action Week. I should point out I'm coming from the Cadigal and Bidigal people's area, which is Ramwick tonight. And usually I'm doing these presentations from the Camaragal, but today I'm in a different area than normal. Now, a fireside chat with Mike Whitby from the Strata Committee at Galleria. So Galleria is an apartment complex of 64 apartments in Woolloomooloo in the city of Sydney. And I first met the Strata Committee at the Galleria in 2016 when Watt Block was doing an energy audit for them under a City of Sydney Green Building Grants program. And at that point in time, the Galleria had already started on its energy efficiency work. It had already done some LED lighting upgrades, and it's continued to set the pace for residential strata building electrification retrofits. Now, Mike Whitby from the Strata Committee has appeared in City of Sydney newsletters. He appears in the annual sustainability report for the City of Sydney for the work that he and the other Strata Committee members have done, improving energy efficiency, taking advantage of solar, decarbonising their strata building, and improving their property valuations. So today we want to talk technology. We want to talk strata, or if you're from an area that calls them body corporates, we want to talk about body corporates. And particularly, we want to talk about strata committees. So, Mike, let's help everyone get to know you a little bit. In your day job, you're a branch manager at a large bank. We often come across three different archetypes on driving sustainability on strata committees. One of these is the bean counter, another is the engineer, and another is the sustainability champion. Now, being a branch manager for a bank, I can't help thinking that you started off your journey as a bean counter on the Strata Committee. Can you talk a bit about your journey as a Strata Committee member?
Yeah, sure. So I bought the place here around 10 years ago. So it's been quite a journey. It's certainly I didn't join the Strata Committee straight away. It was probably a couple of years. I think it was sort of late 2017, early 2018. Just as a committee member. And then, of course, they work out where you come from and where you're working. They think, bank manager, okay, so he'll be fine for treasurer. So the next AGM, a owner nominated me for the treasurer role, and I thought, okay, well, that sounds fine, sort of thing. So, and we had, I think there was at that time, I think there was 5 or 7, obviously trying to keep the odd numbers, strata committee members, so that's pretty well where that journey started, and then of course we met in a number of different meetings from there onwards, really. So, so probably 8 years ago.
Would you say though that over this period of 8 years, you've actually upskilled a little bit, and now you're not just the the treasurer figure, or that that you started on the committee. How do you consider yourself as an engineer these days, or as a greenie or a sustainability champion?
Yeah, well, even like, I think you've got to have that will to be a sustainable person sort of thing, and recycling everything you do at home, separating all your rubbish. We joined the City of Sydney scraps, sort of pioneered, helped pioneer that, and that's going quite well. The little bin gets filled up quite regularly downstairs in the recycle area. Yeah, so I think, I think you've got to have that, drive yourself to be able to drive the building, in moving forward. You know, I suppose one of I mean, sure, everybody here knows the frustrating thing of, you've got massive signs everywhere about the recycling, but, you still get rubbish put into the recycling sort of thing. So that's always a little bit frustrating. But yeah, so I think, it's one of those things that you just keep, so I did go through the different chairman, the different roles, and now I'm the chairman of the committee. We've got a very strong 9 members, sort of thing. So we wanted to make sure that we could make a decision. We could get a quorum, at every meeting, our monthly meetings. So yeah, so.
Okay, so you started as the treasurer, now you're the chairperson. Did you have a stint at being the secretary in between, or?
Well, no, no. So that was been very much held by a very strong. We were very lucky to have a ex-barrister, and Bernie. He was very strong in that area. So he was very, very diligent in getting the documentation of the minutes right, and he certainly helped with our bylaws and stuff. So in the right wording of what we need to do. So that was really good, that we were lucky to have that person. He's now sort of he's certainly retired. So, but he's still living in the building. Yeah, so.
Okay, so now that gives me another insight into the committee. The fact that you had this expertise of a semi-retired barrister as well, powering the committee. Now,
Mm.
what I thought I might do is, people respond to pictures, and what I thought I might do is bring up some pictures of Galleria, and we'll just flick
Yeah.
through them quickly, and then we'll sort of go back. We won't maybe talk through all the pictures, but just to give people an idea of what we're talking about, so they can picture your building. So I'll just bring that up. Just bear with me for a second. So, okay. So just for the people that respond to pictures, so this is a picture of the outside of Galleria. Mike, you can see that picture? It's up.
That's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, and here we are. This is the front entry. I'm still letting people in, by the way, so I'll just so where does it sit in the city of Sydney? Well, over here, this is the electrified strata map, which we did a project to put together to map all the strata buildings across the city of Sydney. And this is the record over here for the Galleria. You can see 64 units and registered in 2001. And to give you a bit of an idea, if people respond to like different icons, of course, we've got Centrepoint Tower here, or a Westfield Tower, St Mary's Cathedral, and some of these skyscrapers are on the Botanic Garden. So Art Gallery just off to the right. And if we have a look, maybe more a south direction, we know this is the famous Harry Seidler building that people know at King's Cross, the old Boulevard Hotel, now something else. we'll come back and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but this is a piece of equipment that used to be on the roof. It used to be the cooling tower, and we understand that that's no longer there. So there's a story to chat about that. And then if we open up the main electrical room, which is just off the foyer entry, it's not actually a room; it's just a cabinet on the left. We can see it's not the most modern of electrical uh, infrastructures, but here you can see a Watt Watchers electricity monitoring device with an antenna, and that's we'll talk a little bit about that. That's recording the consumption of the building, putting it up into the cloud. And here we can see some of the newer solar panels that have gone in on the rooftop of the building. More solar panels now facing back down to what's the hardest building. And here we've got some batteries. Another picture of some solar panels on the roof. And we can actually see you've got two of these alpha ESS batteries. So
Yeah.
we'll have a chat about that. And this is a photo of an electricity monitoring app working on an iPhone. And then if we go up for a satellite view, you can see this is the building before installation of any solar. And this is the solar that's been installed. And there's still potential to do more in the future. And in Australia, we've got this National Australian Built Environment Rating System, which is a star rating for energy and water consumption in apartment buildings. And it's on a 6-star scale. So one is they're calling it making a start, and 6 is a market leader. Now, just to show you where Galleria came from, when they were first rated under this system, they didn't even get 1 star. And I think you're happy with me telling people about this now, Mike. But probably at the time, the Strata Committee wouldn't have wanted the whole world to know that it was 0 stars out of a possible 6 for energy. Is that correct?
Well, it wasn't the best rating we got, and we knew that from here we could only go up. So, so it was gave us a challenge, and we, took on the challenge. We knew that we had some big things that we wanted to fix, and they were the ones that were going to help us to move on the ratings. So, yeah.
Yep. So you started out here with a 0-star energy rating. You've done a whole lot of work. We'll talk through some of that, and now you've got an energy rating of 4.5 stars, which is a lot better than average, average being 3 stars. And greenhouse gas emissions in the common areas reduced by 70%. So we'll come back and we'll have a little bit of a chat about this case study later on and some of the numbers involved. But, probably the investment that we're looking at is probably around $136,000. And we're talking about 72% reduction in the common area electricity bill and 6 years payback, something along those lines. So, but there's still more work. This is your car park area. We can talk about some future plans there a little bit later. But I thought it's very good just for people to see some of these photos and get a feel for what the Galleria is. So I'll drop off this and we'll go back. And so the next question, Mike, is you've said that your strata committee's grown up to 9 people now. It was a bit smaller when you first started. Now, one of the challenges we've got in strata buildings is owner-occupiers and owner-investors. So do you have a sort of a feel around what the split is of owner-occupiers and owner-investors at the Galleria now? And has that changed over, say, the last 6, 7 years?
Yeah, it's pretty well stayed pretty stagnant because a lot of the people that bought these units bought them, not off the plan, but in the early 2000s, so 2005, 2006. So they bought them reasonably, well priced.
Yeah.
For those of that know Sydney, the building is located right next to the Sydney Eastern Distributor. So some one side of the building kind of gets a bit of a noise, and the other side is just you look at the city, and it's just amazing to look, live there, sort of things. Not that the other side is not amazing, but you do get a little bit more of the noise from the road. So we sit about 44% owners and 56% investors. So, and it's pretty stagnant at that. But we think that with what's we're currently in the currently doing will change that, where I think we will get much higher owners wanting to live there. So yeah. So
And did that pose a challenge when it came to getting votes at, say, annual general meetings or extraordinary general meetings? In the early stage, do you have more resistance from, say, owner investors compared to owner occupiers, or do you?
well, yeah, so I think we've been I don't know if it's lucky or we've just been, in the right place, the right time. But I mean, there was an AGM. I think it was my first, I think, or first as no second, as where we didn't have a quorum, so we had to wait the 30 minutes, so 64 owners, and we didn't have a quorum, so we had to wait the time to then have the strata manager convene the meeting so that at least we can proceed, sort of thing. So,
So,
but
just if we've got anyone here that might be from outside New South Wales, I think quorum's 25% of unit entitlements, isn't it?
correct, yeah.
So, yeah, so look, what you've just described is not actually uncommon in strata buildings in New South Wales or Sydney. Uh, I myself, I'm in a block of 40 apartments. We've had the same thing at our annual general meeting. We've had to wait that extra half hour. So the rule, just to explain to some people, if you don't have a quorum instantly, um, basically you have this half hour wait period. You can either defer the AGM and try again, but what are your chances of actually getting everyone back that's already there? It's better to wait out that half hour period and try and proceed with the AGM. So sorry to interrupt, but you had an AGM and you didn't even make quorum. And did you have items that were sustainability related that you wanted to vote on at that meeting, or?
From memory, I think that was actually the one where we had said that we wanted to approve that we were going to do the feasibility studies of the solar power. So, so there was things that we definitely wanted to ensure were approved and passed for that meeting, so that we could move on amongst everything else, sort of thing. I mean, levy increases, of course, is always the ones we want to, move forward with, and so yeah, so and just I guess on that one, the following year, I made sure that an email went to all the owners, and just with the news and what we had actually done and what we actually achieved over the year, and then the following year we actually had, I think it was 30, something lots or something. So we had no worrying about the quorum, sort of thing. So, but yeah, so it is about communication is the key, really. So, yeah, so.
Okay,
mm.
so the process, once you've got a leadership role in the strata committee, did you actually, and I should ask a question, um, uh, your strata manager, what role did the strata manager play, in this process? Did you request a strata role from the strata manager to be able to get those contact details? So that you could email out and try and get more people coming to the building's annual general meeting? Or did you, mail drop everyone in the building or put up notices in the lift or on the strata notice board? How did you increase communication in the Galleria?
Yeah, through communication with the strata manager to get the strata role sort of thing,
Yep.
so that we can. And obviously, the key factor with that, of course, if you're going to send something out, is you make sure you BCC them, in the email.
Yep.
That way, it keeps the privacy and everything to a minimum.
Yep.
Having 44% owners and 55% investors, you've got to include the real estate agents, of course, because some of the owners don't even want to be unless contacted through the real estate agent. So, which is their prerogative, kind of thing. So, but so that was also, that's what we made sure that I was communicating with everybody, basically. So,
Great. Yep. And just on that communication, have we know some strata buildings have set up like WhatsApp groups. Do you use a tool like an instant messenger for residents or committee members, or do you have separate groups or anything for those different classes in the building?
yeah. So we use Telegram for the committee.
Yep.
And then we have a pretty active Facebook group, um, which is locked into just pretty well the owners and residents, and it's a great tool to be able to communicate to the actual tenants and as well, or so that they're on the Facebook group, and so that's been a great tool that we've been able to instill into the Galleria as well. Yeah, so that's been a good thing. So.
Yep. Now, was it the case you've had like assistance from the city council, City of Sydney's helped with funding feasibility studies, funding NABERS for apartment building ratings, not once but twice. Was it actually your strata manager that originally alerted you to the local council offering this type of assistance, or was it someone in the building that read like a newsletter from the City of Sydney? I'm just trying to work out how you first got hooked into local municipal council assistance.
Yeah, so I think it was one of the owners in the building
Yep.
uh, basically uh, had passed on I think it was probably your presentation, the What Block, for back in 2016,
Yep.
and that's when I started making inquiries, and I think we did change strata managers in 2016 to our current one.
Yep.
And that was also good to have a more active strata manager or management company, because they see the value of solar and energy efficiency within the buildings, basically. So because the less times you have to call somebody out to change the light bulb, because an LED lasts for so much longer than a normal light bulb. It saves the strata, it saves the strata manager time and everything. So yeah, so
Yep. And that's probably a good place to start. Like, if we wind back to 2015, um, the LED lighting revolution was coming out. We had all these strata buildings that had basement car parks, fire escapes filled with fluorescent lighting, and they're blowing continually, and that's generating requests to strata managers to get the house electrician to come out to replace the fluorescent lights. So that was probably, if I remember correctly, LED lighting and motion censored LED lighting was your first sustainability project back that kind of got things going in Galleria. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So there was also straight away there was a pretty well a reduction in power sources, power bills sort of thing. So and then you can see that the expense was going to return of an investment over the period of time that we had that. Yeah. So um, yeah. So mm.
How important was banking that first reduction in the power bill in terms of educating the rest of the owners that we're going to get?
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was definitely it was important. Because obviously you need to sell. if you're going to go to the next bit and, start doing, going to them with the AGM as to what you're going to be doing next, then you need to start by returning, got to start showing them what their return on their investment is going to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
And
um, yeah.
yeah, and then that would have led in. Now, you had some aging repack gas hot water boilers that were like a common hot water gas hot water plant that was feeding the building. And you moved it, and this is still probably, let me just check, is this still 2015, 16? Maybe, no, 2018. um, uh, you've got a plan together and you're going to actually move to more efficient instantaneous gas. Um, was that because the hot water had become unreliable, it was breaking down, or what was the driver? Yep.
Yeah, so the unit was basically, they were 15 years old, so they were starting to, have major, high maintenance, that needed to be continually serviced. And of course, and anybody on this call would know, you mentioned strata, and you think that's a big check for them to just sort of write a big bill, sort of thing. So, they just want, more and more and more. So rather than continue to keep them maintained, the decision was made to get them changed over to something that was more efficient. Um, I think probably if we went back 10 years, we'd probably go for more of a heat pump sort of situation, but and finish off the rest of the building with some solar and get them, to use that sort of thing. So, but at this stage, it was more efficient. Gas heating system, which has actually reduced a lot of the and then of course it's been the owner of the block or the person renting pays for their water, and that's heated sort of thing. So yeah, so I
But
think it's just boring. Reliability is what we wanted. So
yeah, and look,
yeah.
back at the time that you switched out that from those old Raypack gas heaters to the more modern instantaneous ones, which probably save you 15% on your gas. The heat pumps hadn't really been proven, and it was actually another building just nearby you in Woolloomooloo that was Generation W that, to my knowledge, was the first building to cut over to heat pumps, and that was 2018, I think. So you were sort of like, but I think I read somewhere that you did put a small heat pump in somewhere at the Galleria. Is that correct?
Um,
Or not? No?
no, no,
No.
no.
Okay. So I was wondering whether there was like a small hot water service or something for the cleaners to use in the car park area or something like that. Okay, so another thing we saw when we're looking at those slides before, we came across the Wattwatcher's electricity monitoring device. And I think that we told your strata manager that there's actually a federal government subsidy on these devices at the time. Um, and uh, it was something called the My Energy Marketplace um, subsidy that came from the Australian Renewable Energy um, Association arena through
Yeah.
an arena grant. But so you went ahead and you put in electricity monitoring, and I'm just wondering, did that help with awareness on the strata committee with like seeing how the building on a website, how a building uses electricity at different times of the day? Did it pique anyone's interest, or was it sort of a novelty when it went in and then no one really referred to it again afterwards?
Oh, no, no, I use it quite regularly. So if I'm communicating to the owners, so I'll do a little bit of snapshot and you can see that, especially in summer, I mean, it'd be nice to be getting a nice kilowatt per hour buyback from the state government, but we're not getting. I think we're getting 0.05% cents per kilowatt or something. So it's not much. But you can see that during the day we're actually selling back to the grid. Batteries are full, and selling back to the grid, and then you can see the graph kind of comes down. And then you can see where the batteries start to, charge the common areas, the lift and the common areas. And then by about kind of 1 o'clock in the morning, the batteries have depleted themselves, sort of thing. So, and then they just wait for the morning to be starting to get charged up again. So yeah, so there's been with all the power increases that we've had across the whole of New South Wales, they've come down a huge amount. And yet you've still had increases. So we've had increases, but the power bills still come down. So,
Yeah.
so we're still looking at $700, $800, $900, less per quarter. And that was basically what we had put in our feasibility study anyway, to say that we would pay it all off in no time. So, yeah.
And that electricity monitoring, it went in before you did the decommissioning of the central air conditioning plant. Do I have the timing right there? What year did Galleria? Was it was it 2021?
2018. 22, yeah, 20, sorry. It was 2019 when it was fully decommissioned.
Right.
Because it was prior to COVID. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So now that is a spectacular project. So I'll just, for anyone that's on this Zoom, I'm only aware of one other strata building in Sydney that had a cooling tower that was sending cold water to package units inside every apartment building to assist with air conditioning. I'm only aware of one other building that's actually decommissioned a central cooling tower entirely and flipped it back on the individual owners. Well, if you want air conditioning, buy your own split air conditioner system and put it on your balcony, put it on in your townhouse courtyard. Can you just talk us through, and if I remember correctly, as that original cooling tower was starting to perform worse as it was getting old, a few people had started buying their own air conditioners, private air conditioners for their own townhouses and their own apartments. And so then you're starting to get this resource that's not performing well, that is not being used by everyone in the building. Can you just talk a little bit about how a strata committee deals with that sort of issue?
Yeah, so I guess in a way, the percentages worked in our favor that time. With 44% owners and 56%
Owner
with the
yeah.
landlords. Because it was put to the AGM that either, well, option A, do we spend another $80,000 refurbishing something that's probably going to cost us, more in the long run down the track, or option B, we just decommission it. We already had done a survey and found that 20 odd units had already, when they've been getting their major refurbishments, putting split systems through. But as we all know, when you live in a strata environment, even if you have installed your split systems and we decide to spend $80,000 on a new or refurbish the cooling system, you still have to pay. So because that's how the allotment works. So it was quite easy to actually put that through the AGM, that we were going to decommission it. There was obviously there was a few owners that wanted support to put but there are split systems in, but it was just basically the decision was to decommission the cooling tower based on its age and its ongoing maintenance, and then everybody And we just basically made sure, of course, we didn't want the building to start looking like, crazy, air conditioners everywhere. So we put a few little conditions when they wanted to have air conditioning approvals. So on the side that we see the eastern suburbs, you can they've pretty well everybody's got a balcony, so the units had to be basically on the balcony on the floor, so you could just see pipes, or the flashing. So we didn't have, but anyway, it was quite easy process to actually push to get it through the AGM, so and get it approved, and then we could actually see the huge benefit of decommissioning that. So yeah.
Yep. And look, just for anyone on the Zoom, when we did the mapping project Electrify Strata, and you can look up these maps online, there's 29 different maps for 29 local council areas through Sydney. There's something like 49,000 strata buildings in Sydney. And over the past 10 years that we've been looking at strata building electrification and sustainability, we're aware of 2 out of 49,000 that have decommissioned a central cooling tower that was there from when the building was built, and then moved back to this situation that Mike just outlined, where if you want air conditioning, you buy your own system, and there's some rules around that, and it's not a central system, it's a decentralized system. And I think one of the real benefits of that is we've seen, one time we looked at a small building that only had 16 apartments at down near Manly Wharf. And if there was one owner that wanted aircon and wanted to run it all through summer, 24 hours a day, then you're spinning up this cooling tower system to like 24 hours a day, basically for one major user of it. And the benefit to the energy consumption of the entire building is, if you're decentralizing air conditioning and everyone's got their own split aircon package, then as a rational consumer, they're not going to run it more than they want to, and it's now air conditioning's turning up on their private apartment bill. So effectively, what you do is you are decarbonizing the whole building by not having the cooling tower running all the time, because of a few. So and also you'd gotten yourself in this situation where 20 people had bought their own split systems. So actually you were from a carbon perspective, you would have been increasing the carbon emissions of the building because you're running an old cooling tower for all the time, and 20 people are also running their split aircon. So great win. And I really think that one, while the next thing we're going to talk about is probably sexier, solar and batteries, and that actually this is that's an incredible project for a residential apartment building to pull off. So well done to yourself, Mike, and for getting that one through. So now we're going to talk about, whenever we see a photo of the Galleria in a City of Sydney newsletter or an annual report or whatever, it's got pictures of solar panels and it's got pictures of batteries. And we saw a couple of those battery pictures earlier. Now, if I'm correct, I think Galleria was the first building in the City of Sydney to retrofit both the solar and the batteries as a single project at the same time. So up until that point, there were, apartment buildings that had installed retrofitted solar panel systems. And some of those buildings added a battery later, but we think that your building was the first to break through and do solar and batteries at the same time. So can you just talk, a little bit how you got this solar and battery project, through a strata committee and then through an owners corporation voting? And were they always AGMs, or did you sometimes run EGMs to vote on these sort of projects?
No, we've pretty well done everything on an AGM. We try to plan ahead what projects we want to do for the year ahead, and use the AGM for what it is to communicate to the owners corporations to ensure that they can see what's going to happen. Yeah, it was certainly a good, and like a big mention out to Chamkwa, the person who started the whole journey back in 2016. And then I've sort of picked it on and was the sustainable champion, I guess. And then through different roles, moved into things. So, but it's just, to me, it was, something that we really needed to do. And Andre, the chairman at the time, we did a lot of research, with yourself as well, but we wanted to make sure we actually picked companies and stuff that were more Australian sort of thing. So we actually, wanted to ensure that, we could see that, we were going to get, benefit, and they actually put the company behind, the product they sell, so that's why we pretty well chose Atlas and Alpha sort of thing. So, for the Atlas for the solar panels, and Alpha for the battery. And we also wanted to make sure, that it does help when you go back to, your energy provider and give them the stats of what we're actually using, so you can actually get a better price, so for the energy that you're, for the power that you're, using. So,
So,
so
yeah, just for the people on the call, so everyone's heard of Tesla Powerwalls, but if we go back to, let's see, batteries, was that 2022? Solar and batteries, was that 2022, the project at Galleria? Right.
uh, yes, 22, yeah,
So, yeah,
maybe a little bit earlier.
bit earlier, maybe
Yes, yeah, so,
2021, 22.
yeah.
So the Alpha ESS is um, a battery, lithium-ion battery provider. Um, uh, Manufacturing, I think, was happening in Adelaide. It was an overseas company, but they'd set up a local production plant in Adelaide to be part of the South Australian virtual power plant program. So there were, at the time, I think there were orders for 8,000 of these Alpha ESS batteries. And they were at a significant discount to the pricing, from more renowned battery providers like Tesla or, Sonnen at the time. So, yeah, so you've got two of these Alpha ESS batteries. And where did you put them in the building, Mike?
So we're lucky enough in the plant room, which is upstairs near the gas, in the same room as the gas burners.
Yep.
So it's quite a big room up there, and we've made sure that we've left space for future down the track sort of thing. So hopefully, when we move to the next project after we finish these big projects we got at the moment. But I mean, strata living is always big projects, but
Yeah.
yeah, so. But yeah, no, so there's plenty of room there. We're lucky to have plenty of room there. So,
Right. Okay.
um,
And then installed by Atlas Renewables, who were one of the early solar installers that started doing solar installs on strata buildings. And um, let's just have a look. Okay, so you get in the solar and the batteries, and I was having a look at your graph one time out of the What Watches Electricity Monitoring, and is it the batteries they discharge what around 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Is that about the time? Like you get
yeah,
the
five, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, and then of course, yeah, um, and then there's still obviously solar. Well, in winter, obviously the sunlight's gone a lot more, but yeah. So, um, and then of course the normal common power kicks in,
yeah.
sort of thing. And then you can see where the graph takes off in the morning. It heats up pretty fast. So, mm.
So okay, so then you've done your LED lighting, you've decommissioned your cooling tower, you've put in solar and batteries for the common property. and you go back and do another NABERS rating, and you get 4.5 stars. Now, one of our team members did the NABERS rating for you, and just to let people know what actually happened on the back end is it's a government program, and every NABERS rating has to go through a level 1 audit. And that means after, a private NABERS assessor submits it and to the government, it goes through a lodgement process that goes through a level 1 audit. Now, the increase from 0 stars to 4.5 stars for a NABERS energy rating actually triggered a level 2 audit by the government. And that's because it's so rare for an apartment building to actually jump through that many stars in the star rating system. It triggered a level 2 audit, and because it was that abnormal or unusual. And then they checked it all out, and it was they said, yeah, this is the government. The level 2 audit said this is correct. Your building is actually saving 72% on its common area electricity compared to when you started, and it's saving 76 tons of carbon per annum. And these are just through projects that were in the common areas of the building. So with 64 apartments, you're saving over a ton of carbon per year per apartment with just projects that were executed in the common areas of the apartment building. So the other thing we should just mention is you also went through a water rating, and you improved. You were under average. You got 2 stars for water the first time, and then after decommissioning the cooling tower, you're not losing as much water through evaporation, and that improved your water rating for the building as well to 3 stars. So you hit average on your water rating. So just a couple of other questions. Has your strata committee ever run out of funds? Have you ever had to raise a special levy to do a sustainability project? Or has everything been paid for through normal build-up of strata levies at Galleria?
No, so I guess what we have we haven't raised a special levy for any of the sustainability items. No, no. So we've made sure that it was fitted within the budget of the building basically. And we actually, when we got the AGM, got approval. We had approval for. We went for a little bit more than what we thought it would be, and we came in under budget, which was, which you always want to try and do is come in under budget. So by the time we shopped around, and then I think there was even a decrease in costs between the AGMs and the actual placing the order, which was even helpful again. So for that, for our sustainability, we haven't had to raise a special levy.
Okay.
So no.
Now, have you had some big projects that are not sustainability related that you've had to juggle in between doing these sustainability projects? Any like really big ones that you've had to do in the last 6-7 years?
No, we've been pretty lucky. I mean, there's been obviously, every building has its issues. Some leak in some corners and some don't leak in other corners. So we've had a pretty ongoing flow of items that we needed to repair. And continue to improve, the maintenance things to any building is making sure you've got a maintenance schedule. And um, even the solar needs to make sure it's getting, those panels need to make sure they're cleaned regularly, sort of thing. So, so that they're performing at their most. So we have a major project going on at the moment, but that's a different thing. So, which is a 4-year upgrade. So,
Oh,
yeah.
right. Okay. Yep. So now you're investing in beautifying the internal environment of the building.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So,
And just
we're making sure that, yeah. So.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so the other thing is, have you had other initiatives in the building like have you ever tried like coffee pod recycling or e-waste where people put batteries into, have you tried anything along those lines in the building or
Um, Pretty well what we've done is we rejigged where this recycling happens. The Facebook page is very good at updating people when the City of Sydney is doing their garbage Saturday kind of thing. So recycle Saturday, sort of thing. So we haven't done the coffee pots. Probably should because I probably could fill up a tin quite easily. So, but we have started doing little things like because you can do your recycles of your your tablets, the thing that makes all the tablets come in kind of thing. So that's
just
part of the City of Sydney Saturday thing. So yeah, so mm.
okay.
uh, but as I mentioned before, we've got the City of Sydney's kitchen scraps, which we
Perhaps, yeah.
do are part of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And now, I think earlier we covered off. I was going to say what role are the strata lawyers playing in, drafting motions and things like that. But I think having a barrister or retired barrister as the secretary probably reduced your legal costs compared with other buildings. Was that a bit of an advantage? Was more of that done sort of in the committee?
Yeah, yeah. So he was very good at writing the bylaws.
Yeah,
So they suited because I think it's one thing to have a bylaw, but then every building is different. So you need to make sure that the bylaw really is tailored to. You can take a bylaw off the shelf, but you still need to tailor it to your building, and also to your percentage of owners and tenants, basically. So you need to factor in a lot of things. So. Yeah.
and one more question. This is more directed to the future. How are you going with electric vehicles? Have electric vehicles started to turn up in at Galleria?
Well, funny enough, at the moment, they haven't. We haven't had owners, wanting to do their own thing. At the moment, we've got the major refurbishment on our foyers, and that's 4 levels of, it's yeah, it's been going to be an interesting 10 weeks. We're about 3 weeks into it, so. But I think once the foyer is all upgraded across the whole building, we are going to see a different clientele into the building because it's going to look very smick. So,
A
yeah,
lift
not that
upgrade
we didn't.
at any?
Hey, sorry, what
Sorry,
was that?
have you done a lift upgrade already, or is that something that's
No, we did a lift upgrade in 2019, so
yep.
we replaced the lift. So we only have one lift, so she's very well used, but very well maintained. So, but yeah, so the foyer basically will go from where we enter, and then each level is going to be, as you know, it's got a very different foyer. It's very large. It's actually 1,100 square meters of foyer. So if you took the Galleria and turned it on its end, it'd actually be higher than the building next door. So, which is the 16-story domain, I think it's called. So yeah, so it's quite a lengthwise and square meter wise, it's quite a big foyer. So yeah, so mm.
Well, I think I've asked all the questions I can think of. Do you have a couple of minutes if we just ask, see if there's anyone wants to put in the chat any particular questions? Do you have a few minutes just to have a look at that,
Yeah.
Michael? Okay, so let's have a look. Um, if anyone's okay, we had a question here. Does common areas include lifts? And yes, the common areas includes the lifts, and the lift has been upgraded in 2019. And we've got another question from Mavis. How much have the levies been raised over this arch of, let's call it the 7 or 8 year period?
Okay, great question, great question. But I know for a fact that through COVID, we kind of had zero increase because people had lost their income. We just basically kept the levies at one rate for I think it was 2 years, so yeah, probably 3 years, and then last year we had our first raise of levies. But if it related to anything to do with sustainability, then everything was pretty well consumed as part of the budget. So yeah.
Right. Okay. I can't see any other questions. Um, okay. Tanya's saying, has there been interest from residence owners in getting shared solar?
Yeah, great question. I know I would put my hand up straight away. So, but then my units is on the top floor. So, but yeah, so that is something that we would certainly, contemplate in the future. So, um, and yeah, so that's the roof.
This is the
That
remaining roof that doesn't have solar panels on it. So, potentially you could get, I don't know if you've got enough space for 64 people to have shared solar, but you might be able to band together a group of interested owners, and
Mm.
they might be able to co-fund another shared solar system down this expansive roof that you've got here that's
Yeah,
untouched. Yeah.
yep,
Fertile.
definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's quite a large. Mm. Roof. So yeah, which we're lucky to have. But then it does take maintenance and stuff. So we've had, general obviously capital X funds been working overtime to ensure that that's maintained as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So, okay. Look, Mike, um, uh, I'd just like to thank you so much for giving your time for this event. It's the kickoff day of Climate Action Week 2025. And everyone, if you can just put a thank you into the chat for Mike donating his time again. He's got a busy day job as a branch manager that he's got to also navigate, as well as being a strata committee chairperson, and just if everyone can put their hands together and do a clap and thank Mike for joining us for this session for Climate Action Week 2025.
Okay, well, I hope you all have a good climate action week. So, and no, it's good to express and hopefully, yep, just keep going and keep going with your strata committees. So, yeah. So,
Thanks so much, Mike.
good.
Okay. Have a good evening, everyone.